Hello, fellow drinkers at the Jolly Heretic, resident poet here, and a hello again to those of us who join from History Debunked. Now, I hope you're all very well, and I'm now going to start off with a recap of Ed's quick pints that he produced for us very kindly this week. The first of which was a little video on Andrew Tate, who of course has been in the news recently, and Ed wanted to illustrate how the rise and popularity of people such as this is akin to the lawless ganglands of the medieval era in England, and of course is in turn symptomatic of declining IQ. The subject today is Andrew Tate, a sign of a near-failing state. His type of crew is a new retinue. The future is not looking great. So that was my little rhyme there on the first of Ed's quick pints this week. And the second one, Ed turned once again to the topic of declining per capita innovation. And he rebuffed the point, among others, that the reason this is happening is because innovations these days are simply too expensive to carry out. And this prompted me to write a few lines. These days, there's less innovation due to our mental stagnation. Inventions of yore by the rich and the poor resulted from great application. So hopefully you enjoyed that. And last night on Ed's stream at the Jolly Heretic, Ed had the guest Morgoth, who was a great guest, I thought. Lots of entertaining and informative stuff thrashed around by the pair of them there. Nice to hear two British voices on the Jolly Heretic stream. And it prompted me to write a poem. Tonight we've a great guest for you. Morgoth, he of the Review. A man of great taste and certainly based. Is it too good to be true? So, yes, that, as I say, it was a brilliant stream last night. And Morgoth, if you didn't know, is, of course, from the northeast of England, which is one of England's grittier parts. And this reminded me of a funny story. Now, a few years ago, there was a chap and his son, and the chap's late middle age, and his son is in his early 20s. And they went out for a father and son pint in one of the pubs in the centre of one of the northeast cities. And all was going well, and all of a sudden, though, the son piped up with, "Hey, you know what, Dad? I can't stand living here like in this town. There's no opportunities, there's no jobs, and there's no future, man." And his dad turned around and says to him, "Now listen, son, calm down, all right? I'm now going to tell you a story which may change your mind on these issues, all right? So listen up. Many years ago, about 15, 20 years ago, I knew of a young man just like you, and he walked here to the centre of this city, all the way from one of the outlying pit villages, and all he had were the clothes he stood up in and a rucksack on his back. Now, before long, through work and application, he owns a chain of 6 pubs, 3 restaurants, a couple of saunas, some burger vans, a regional taxi firm, and a fleet of buses, and what's more, he's the majority shareholder in the local football team. So what do you think about that?" And his son is taken aback, of course, by this wonderful example and says, "Okay, Dad, fair enough. I suppose these sorts of things can happen. Thanks for the story, man, you know. But I've just got one question for you, like." And his dad says, "Well, fire away." And his son says, "What was in the rucksack?" And his dad says, "What was in the rucksack? 43 million quid. So hopefully you enjoyed that little vignette about life in the northeast. And so now we turn to History Debunked with Simon Webb. I forgot to do the cough at the beginning. And anyway, as always, Simon has produced videos apace this week, the first of which was a little story about the London School of Economics, who are going to change their Christmas and Easter holidays to be called winter and spring holidays. Now, I'm sure many of us will think, well, not much of a surprise here, but quite interesting that such a major university has decided to go along with this sort of thing. Our feast days of Easter and Yule might not seem so trendy or cool, but to hear it firsthand that they have been banned is surely just stupid and cruel. And later on in the week, Simon donned his historian's hat and told us about terrorist incidents committed by asylum seekers to the UK over a century ago, the most significant of which was the Sydney street siege way back in 1911. So it just shows you that this sort of thing is nothing new, and as always, it prompted me to write a couple of lines. From Simon, we always learn much. on history regarded as such, confirming our fears that over the years the UK is just a soft touch. So hopefully you enjoyed that. And then later on, there was a little video from Simon about the RAF, that is the Royal Air Force. And I think this story's been out there a while, but Simon provided a bit more colour on it, as it were. And it was a little story about how discrimination was occurring against those who are better qualified in favour of those less qualified who do, despite that, fulfil certain criteria. We've come a long way since the few. Our airmen were of the same hue. A career in the air, if you are fair, is unfortunately now closed to you. So that was my little roundup of History Debunked with Simon Webb, and a roundup of Ed Dutton's work, he the landlord of the Jolly Heretic. A little piece of personal news, I now have over 100 subscribers. So thank you very much for attaining that milestone, modest as it may seem. Please do subscribe and like. Both of those carried out in the Simon Webb style. So once again, thanks very much for watching. Have a lovely weekend, and hopefully we'll see each other very soon. Goodbye.